pod bay doors.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of The Cinematic Traveler. I am your intrepid movie exploring host, Chris, and on this episode, it's that time of the month again. Well, not that time of the month again. No, it's time to review a film selected by last month's movie quote contest winner. And this month, our winner has chosen the film History of the World Part 1. Directed by the legendary Mell Brooks. And I will be honest with you, I have no idea how this review is going to go, because how do you review a movie with no plot? This might be the biggest challenge I've ever faced. I know I say that every time, but it's part of my shtick at this point. But I'm excited to talk about it because I do love Mell Brooks. I grew up at that time when he was really at the peak of his career. So yeah, it's always fun to talk good old Mell Brooks. Now, before I do need to ask a favor of you. Whatever you are listening or watching this show on, somewhere there's a follow or subscribe button. If you could go ahead and hit that, I would greatly appreciate it, as it does help me and the show, but it also helps you. You won't miss any of my future episodes. Plus, you can go back and listen to all of my amazing reviews and hear my sexy, sexy voice. And sometimes you get to see my sexy, sexy face. And I'm going to keep saying that because it's good to be the king. I'm going to say that a lot throughout this episode, just to warn you now. So I hope you're doing well out there, my beloved listener. Yes, this is going to be an interesting episode. I do want to thank last month's movie quote contest winner. That would be the podcasting juggernaut that is Frank Mendoza of Reels of Cinema, and his other podcast, Movies Across the Pod, with his British co-host Davey A and his amazing Liverpool accent. And Frank's got his amazing Boston accent. There's accents everywhere. It's amazing. You have to listen to not only Reels of Cinema, but Movies Across the Pod. Check those things out. So he has given us an interesting film to talk about. God, Frank, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But before I get into the review, just got to over-explain a couple things. Well, really just one thing. I will say, normally I don't do spoilers on my show, but as this movie did come out in 1981, I think I'm going to risk it and talk about spoilers in my review. I am going to give you a plot synopsis. I don't know how I'm going to give you a plot synopsis, but I am going to give you one. And somewhere hidden in that plot synopsis is a movie quote. And if you can identify that movie quote and get in touch with me through Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod, or my email address, thecinimatictravelerpod@gmail.com, or in the comment sections on YouTube or whatever podcasting service you're listening to, I will give you a point. If you get it right at the end of the month, I add up all the points, and whoever wins gets to pick a movie for me to review next month. Oh my God, how exciting. How exciting is that? You get to know that it's good to be the king. So definitely play. I know it seems a little uncool, but that's the best time of the week, and that is to be uncool with Chris. Or if you just listen every now and then, please play, just so I know you're out there as I sit behind my fort of blankets, sweating in this shirt and tie. Why did I choose it? Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about History of the World Part 1.
Yeah, it's going to be fun on the bun.
And we open the movie with a narration by the legendary Orson Welles, telling us of the dawn of man as apes stand erect to become human beings. And then they proceed to have a circle jerk. So you know what kind of flick you're in for here. We then learn how primitive humans created fire, art, marriage, and weapons. We are then rushed ahead to biblical times as we meet Moses and his commandments briefly. And then the movie jumps ahead again in time to the Roman Empire. We are introduced to Comicus, played by Mell Brooks, a stand-up philosopher, or more commonly known as a bullshit artist, who angers the emperor. And along with Josephus, played by Gregory Hines, they must flee the city with the help of a miracle. After we get another time jump, now we're in the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. That is not the movie quote, so don't get any points for that. But Mell Brooks takes one of the most horrible and brutal times in human history and turns it into a musical number worthy of Fred Astaire. And the movie ends in 1700s France. Ah, the French. Does anybody get that reference? Anyway, we're at the time of the French Revolution, where King Louis, in all of his arrogance, believes he is the second coming of God. But we know, let me see if I can do this, he's not a messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Hint, hint. The things I do to entertain you. And the people rise up to end his reign. But this king is a step ahead and puts a decoy, an innocent piss boy, on the throne to take the fall for him. When all hope seems lost for our innocent hero, he is saved by our favorite miracle, and our collection of random comedy bits finally reaches its big ending. And that, in a nutshell, is History of the World Part 1. How did I do? It was very challenging to try to think of something to say. Like I said, this movie has no plot. It's just a collection of bits, one right after the other. So it was kind of tough to figure out a good way to tell you what this movie is about. It's about insanity. It's about Mel Brooks just being insane for an hour and a half. So that's probably what I should have said. So I have to say, it has been a minute since I've watched History of the World Part 1. It was fun to revisit that. As I mentioned earlier, if you are of a certain age, and I am, unfortunately, time does not slow down, even for us podcasters. But yeah, you are well aware of Mel Brooks. You grew up with Mel Brooks. God, I remember seeing Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, History of the World Part 1, and so on and so forth. So I am well versed in the great Mel Brooks. I am a fan. How can you not be? The guy's so damn lovable. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just go ahead and dive into this review. We'll start with the positives of History of the World, Part 1.
Sounds pleasant.
All right, let's start, I guess, with the cast. I mean, good Lord. Mel Brooks is pulling out all the stops with this one. It starts off, like I said, with the narration from Orson Welles, the great Orson Welles. I'm a big fan of his, so it's always cool to hear his deep baritone voice in any kind of narration. Plus, you get a little bit with the theme song 2001, which you all know from the movie, but I know as the song played during the greatest team introduction in college football. Go Gamecocks. But yeah, again, a great way to start the movie. I'll probably bounce around a little bit with the cast because next up, Gregory Hines. He seems to be having an amazing time in this movie. He's laughing through most of it. This is actually his first movie. I didn't know that. I also didn't know that his part was originally going to be played by Richard Pryor. But this is at the time when Richard Pryor had his infamous incident with the flames from his drug habit. So he could not participate. I do think it would have made this movie a bit different to have him in it. But Gregory Hines, if you don't know him, he is one of those actors that when he shows up in something, I'm always like, man, I really like Gregory Hines. I wish he'd have done even more stuff. But he's having a blast with all these corny jokes. Plus, he gets to do his dancing. He's a very famous dancer and tap dancer from, I guess, Broadway. I'm assuming that's where he got his start from. I don't know much about him before the movies, but I know he is a dancer, and him and Sammy Davis Jr. used to tap dance with each other. But yeah, it was really cool to see him just having a lot of fun up there. I think this whole cast just knows what this movie is, so they're having a blast. Someone who definitely knows what this movie is about is another late, great comedic actor, and that is Madeline Kahn. Oh, do we all not love Madeline Kahn? Especially in a Mel Brooks movie. I don't think she's in a whole lot of this movie. She plays the Empress. What's her name? Nympho, I think. But my God, she's so great in this movie. I think every line she says I laughed at. She's got this New York accent, and she's chewing on her gum, and she's always got some kind of perverted thing to say. And she's just hamming it up. She knows what to do with Mel Brooks, and she's great. I miss Madeline Kahn. She was taken way too early from us. She was such a talent. Every time I see her, especially in these Mel Brooks movies, I'm just like, oh, what a brilliant comedic actor she was. And speaking of knowing how to work with Mel Brooks, you have his, I would say, typical cast members. You got Dom DeLuise as the Emperor Nero. He's a disgusting slob, and he plays that very well. And when you get to the French Revolution part of the movie, you've got Harvey Korman as Count de Monet, or Count de Money. No, it's de Monet. He always plays a character where they get the name wrong. But again, he's another actor that knows how to perform in a Mel Brooks movie. He has some great laughs. He sort of plays this effeminate aristocrat in the French royalty, and he's so sarcastic and snide, and he just plays that character so well, especially at this point in his career. And then, of course, also in the French Revolution part of the movie, you've got Cloris Leachman, who I think she was in probably every Mel Brooks movie. Again, another talented comedic actress, and she's playing this over the top leader of the French Revolution. And we only talk with this. We don't have an accent. We talk like we're in the movies. So there again, that group knows how to work with Mel Brooks because they've been doing it for so many years. So anything he throws at them, they're going to be able to perform. I bet it was such a blast to be on the set of a Mel Brooks movie, especially something like this where they're just cracking each other up. You could tell they're trying to hold back laughter as they're just bouncing off of each other. So it's always fun to see these actors playing against each other. And I mean, I could spend all day listing cast members because Mel Brooks, as I mentioned, he pulls in everybody. There are a lot of great cameos. Early on, you get Sid Caesar, who a lot of you young people, hell, I'm too young to really even know who Sid Caesar was, but he was a pioneer of comedic television. Actually, Mel Brooks used to write for his program. That's sort of how they formed their friendship over the years. He plays the caveman at the beginning of the movie. I gotta say, Sid looks good, man. He's got some guns. I was like, man, he's probably been in his 50s in this movie. I was like, man, I don't know what his regiment is. This is back in 1981. You didn't see a lot of 51-year-olds with those kind of. I appreciate that now. Going to the gym, it's a lot of work. So anytime I see something like that, I'm like, you go, buddy. But yeah, he's sort of hamming it up, being his typical Sid Caesar self. We'll get into some of the negatives here in a little bit. You also have John Hurt shows up as Jesus. And one of the funnier bits of the movie, I'm going to talk about the jokes here in a second, but yeah, he plays Jesus. He's been in a couple of movies from Mel Brooks. I know he was in Spaceballs, recreating his alien scene, so we all remember that one very well. Hello, my darling. Hello, my round. Hello, my ragtime down. And then I think the best cameo for me in the movie was B. Arthur. She is in the Roman time frame, and she plays the Secretary of Unemployment or whatever. She's handing out the money. That's who she calls Mel Brooks a bullshit. You're a bullshit artist. Did you bullshit today? Did you bullshit last week? And she just got that B. Arthur attitude, and it's priceless. So yeah, all of the performances, for the most part, I'll get into a few that I don't like, but they know what this movie is. I mean, this isn't a highbrow Oscar contender here. This is a stupid Mel Brooks comedy. They know what it is. They're having fun, and that does come across in the screen. And it makes the movie more enjoyable because, you know, you're just having fun to laugh along. So, yeah, and even the jokes that don't land, you know, they're probably groaning as well as you are. So you're just having some fun with it. And speaking of hamming it up, I guess we'll talk about the, lead actor of this film, Mel Brooks himself, who wrote and directed and plays 3 different parts of the movie. No, 4 different parts because he plays Moses. Oh, the ego on that little man. But he is so funny. And you could tell, again, he's just having a blast playing these characters and saying these dumbass jokes. No, actually, I think he plays 5 characters. Oh, yeah, because in the Spanish Inquisition, he's the head of the Spanish Inquisition. Oh, my gosh. So, yeah, he's all over the place in this movie. And the guy is a comedy legend for a reason. He knows how to tell a joke. He knows how to milk the jokes. He knows how to break that fourth wall. It's good to be the king. So, you know, he's in command of this film. He's enjoying. I just, you know, all the people out there that love Mel Brooks, you know, you just love Mel Brooks. And when he's on the screen, he just makes you smile just because he's on the screen. Although I will say, maybe I should wait for the negatives, but I'm going to get this one a little early. I always feel like the movies where there's more Mel Brooks in the movie aren't quite his best movies. That's just my humble opinion. But at any rate, he's selling this movie and he's having a good time and he's winking at you through the whole movie. So, I mean, come on, cast top to bottom, they're just having a good time. The next positive film, as I mentioned, it's an hour and a half long, so it zooms right on by. And I guess we'll just go right into the final positive, and why it zooms by is because they're throwing jokes at you from the beginning all the way to the end constantly. And for everyone that misses, there are 3 more that hit right behind it. So you really got to pay attention. Sometimes you're laughing so hard at one joke, you miss another couple of jokes. So, yeah, and it starts at the beginning with, oh God, when they do the jerking off with the apes when they stand up, I'm like, oh my God, Mel, you're really just setting the tone for this movie with that opening scene. But yeah, there's a lot of goofiness in the Stone Age stuff where they're learning about fire and the one guy already has fire, but they don't understand that they can use that fire. Also, really, I think the best joke to me in the whole Stone Age bit is when they're discovering art, and Orson Welles is narrating this segment how man has created art and is enlightened and stepped above the other creatures in the world because he can create this art. And after the artist is created, came the inevitable afterbirth of the critic. And I couldn't help but laugh at that. Maybe a little too hard, as a matter of fact, but that's a great joke. So there's some goofy sight gags, and they're hamming it up, cheesing it up through that. Oh, and then what other great bits are there? Yeah, you move into Moses with the 15 commandments. I have brought you these 15 commandments. Oh, 10 commandments. That bit will always make me laugh. Every time I see him drop that one stone tablet, and he just goes right into 10, these 10, these 10 commandments. Oh, Mel. Priceless stuff, priceless stuff. Of course, all the Roman stuff, you get a lot of puns where the soldiers are crawling on the street. Look, and they're literally crawling on the street. Another one of the funnier segments is with the eunuch test, where Josephus Gregory Hines is hiding with the eunuchs and they test him. I'm just gonna laugh at that because it's so funny. Because if you haven't seen the movie, I hate to spoil it, but they have like these 4 eunuchs standing there, and they're not supposed to get aroused sexually, but they have this very sexy woman doing a sexy dance in front of each of them. And the Roman guard is like, every time they dance in front of one and the eunuch doesn't react, he goes, definitely a eunuch. And then about a third one, he goes, that guy's dead. And then when they get to Gregory Hines, the feather lifts up in front of him. I'm not explaining it very well, but go watch the movie and you'll see it. It's a very funny scene. Of course, like I said, Madeline Kahn, everything that comes out of her mouth is hilarious. I mentioned John Hurt as Jesus. There is a very brief but memorable segment with the Last Supper, and Mel Brooks is the waiter at the Last Supper, and has a wonderful "who's on first" type of comedy bit, where Mel's like, Jesus. And Jesus goes, yes. Mel looks like, what? Huh? Again, I'm not explaining these jokes very well. I don't know why I do that. It just makes me laugh to think about how great some of these bits are in this movie. The Spanish Inquisition song is amusing and fun, and you could tell Mel's just hamming it up and cheesing it. I think at one point he actually does wink at you in the middle of the song. So he's having a good time. And you get to the French Revolution, which has some great stuff in it. But of course, I don't want to spoil everything for you, but come on. Who can't resist? It's good to be the king. maybe the greatest fourth wall break in the history of cinema. Every time he does it, I think he does it like 4 times. It is absolutely hilarious. I laugh every single fucking time. And yes, it's very offensive. I'm not going to lie, because the king is a dirty, dirty man. But when he looks back at that camera and goes, it's good to be the king. How can you not laugh at that? Come on. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So yeah, this movie's going to throw a bunch at you. One joke right after the other. And you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh unless, and well, let's get to the negatives of History of the World Part 1.
Uh-oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Unless you are easily offended. If you are easily offended by raunchy humor, then you probably should not watch really any Mel Brooks movie. And this one does seem to be pushing pretty hard on that. It is rated R, so you're going to get a lot of choice words throughout this film. And again, I know generations are a bit different now, so some things you might look at and be like, oh, that's not funny, and instantly turn the movie off. I will say there's some stuff that even I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we thought that was funny back then. There's some sections in the Roman Empire one where it's, I don't want to say if it's mean spirit or not, but they have some gay jokes in there where I was just like, God, I'm glad the world has changed since then. That's why it's good to see these movies, because you can see where we were to where we are now. I'm glad that this doesn't really fly nowadays. But yeah, if you're easily offended, then you're probably not going to like this movie. I'm not going to lie to you. But I will say, for a lot of us who grew up with Mel Brooks, it's because of him that we don't get easily offended by things. And I guess really my final negative for the movie, it's so hard to be harsh on this movie. It is what it is. I mean, come on. But yeah, the jokes are, like I said, they're hit or miss. You're going to get a lot of them thrown at you. And when they miss, they miss. Some of them are really bad. Some of the puns you're just going to roll your eyes at. There is this thing I talked about Sid Caesar, but there are other older comedians. Really, they would be really, really old comedians to some of you that were there at the start of television and start of movies almost, where, yeah, some of their bits are really dated because of their what they were when they were famous. There's that one, God, I want to say it's Charlie Callis, maybe. I've never liked it. He got in with the Rat Pack, I think, with Frank Sinatra and all them, and he always does his jokes with these weird sound effects and shit. That always annoys the hell out of me. It's really goofy, and when he was on, I was like, oh god, let's just skip past it. So yeah, you're gonna get some hit or miss moments with this movie as far as the comedy is concerned. And if you're easily offended, you're gonna have a lot more misses than hits. And like I said, it doesn't have a plot. So don't go into this movie looking for some, substance to the comedy here. It's just Mel Brooks being Mel Brooks. I kind of think of this movie as like if you have a favorite band and you love every song they do, and then the band members go off and do solo albums, right? And you'll listen to their solo album, and there'll be like a couple of good songs and then some really crappy songs. And you're like, okay, I know which songs they work on when they're in the band, why they're so good. That's kind of what this is. This isn't Mel Brooks at his best. I mean, this falls well short of Young Frankenstein and The Producers and Blazing Saddles. Those are kind of the big three for me on his career. Even High Anxiety, I think this falls a little underneath of that. So you get a lot of Mel Brooks just throwing everything that makes Mel Brooks laugh on the screen. So either you laugh along with it or you don't. Fortunately, I laughed a lot throughout this movie. So my overall thoughts for History of the World Part 1, and as I mentioned, it's not as good as Young Frankenstein. It's not as good as Blazing Saddles. If you've never watched a Mel Brooks movie, I would not start with History of the World Part 1. I would tell you to start with Young Frankenstein. I think that's perfect comedy. However, if you do watch Young Frankenstein and maybe Blazing Saddles and you get a kick out of those movies, or if you watch Spaceballs and you get a kick out of that, then check out History of the World Part 1. Again, if you're not easily offended, I will acknowledge some of those jokes really have not aged well. And I'm glad that those jokes haven't dated well and we've moved past that type of comedy. But overall, if you could skim past those parts, you're going to get so many jokes thrown at you. You're going to laugh at something. Especially if you've got like a 14 or 15-year-old brain, you're going to laugh at a lot of shit in this movie. I think it's worth it for the Moses scene, and it's good to be the king. those are some of the greatest moments in any comedy movie. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. So again, if you haven't seen a Mel Brooks movie, maybe go check out a couple first and then come back to History of the World Part 1. If you're a Mel Brooks fan and you haven't seen this one in a while, go back and check it out. It's on Hulu. It'll get your memory banks all fired up and you'll have a good laugh at all of these crazy bits. And you'll go, I miss old Mel Brooks. Well, what a great guy. And don't be too harsh on him if you watch this and get offended, because the guy was really one of a kind throughout his career in film. I know he did not take much shit from studios. Can I tell a Mel Brooks story? Hell yeah, I can. It's my show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's good to be the king. You may or may not know there's a film entitled The Elephant Man, which is a biography of the Elephant Man who had a condition where he had like, I guess, tumors or growths that made him look, and he was treated like a freak back in the day. And it's a very uplifting story because it shows that he is a human being and all this fun stuff. Well, that movie was produced by Mel Brooks. Now, this is a very serious movie. It was nominated for an Oscar. So Mel, knowing that, did not want his name to appear as a producer because he didn't want people to come into the movie and think that this is going to be one of his comedies. Also, he fought to get David Lynch, an unknown director at the time, to be the director of this film. And in one of my favorite stories of Mel Brooks and what he was like behind the scenes for this movie, for The Elephant Man. All right, I'm going to read this to you here. All right, when Paramount Studios executives were shown a cut of the movie, they wanted the opening and closing surrealistic sequences to be cut. So Mel Brooks looked at them and said, "We are involved in a business venture. We screened this film for you to bring you up to date on the status of the venture. Do not misconstrue this as our soliciting the input of raging primitives." And I just have to relate that because I think that it's hilarious to think a little short Mel Brooks turned into those big, powerful executives and just being like, fuck off, you are morons. This is our movie. We're not changing a damn thing. So, yeah, I know some people will watch movies like this and be like, oh my God, it's so offensive. But the guy really did fight for movies. He loved movies, and he's really sharp as a tack. I saw a documentary a couple of years ago. It was before Carl Reiner died because they were good friends, and both of them are in their were in their 90s. He's still Mel Brooks is still alive. I guess he's mid 90s now. I mean, sharp as a tack, funny as hell. I'm like, damn, I wish I could be like that when I'm in my 90s. So I guess that wraps up our review for History of the World Part 1. If you want to call this a review, I don't even know what it was. It was just me on here having fun and honoring last month's movie quote contest winner. Thank you, Frank, again from Reels of Cinema. Go check out his podcast. Also, he has another one, Movies Across the Pod. Go check out both of those podcasts. They're excellent. I dare say they're almost as good as The Cinematic Traveler. And that bar is set pretty high, my friends. Pretty high indeed. So yeah, again, thanks, Frank. I had a lot of fun watching that movie. It has been a while. It was worth it for those scenes and Madeline Kahn. God, I love Madeline Kahn. Wasn't she the best? Maybe that's why I have this particular set of features in a woman that I really like, because of Princess Leia and Madeline Kahn. I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling now. If you're still watching or listening, then I must have done something right. And if I did, if you could please follow, subscribe to the show, I'd appreciate it. Share the show with your friends, family, loved ones on social media. I would appreciate that as well. You can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod. I also have an email address, thecinematictravelerpod@gmail.com. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky, but I really hardly ever go on there. But please, like I said, subscribe, comment, let me know you're out there. I really would appreciate that. For my next episode, oh, it's going to be a fun one. I am so excited to be traveling back into the universe of Mission Impossible with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, with Tom Cruise hanging off airplanes and scuba diving and running across buildings. Oh my God. I could already tell you I'm going to love this movie. But you're going to want to come back and listen to me ramble on about that flick in my next episode. And before I go, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to my show. I tell everyone I know, I've got the smartest and sexiest audience in all the podcast universe, and you never fail to live up to those high standards. It's good to be the Cinematic Traveler audience member. It doesn't work very well, does it? That's why I do a podcast, and Mel Brooks is a legendary Hollywood icon. But as you are traveling around on this blue and green ball, bouncing through the cosmos, I need you to do one thing for me. Go out there and do that voodoo that you do so well.
All right, show's over. I'm tired.